Hey, you guys, welcome back. This is Casting with Purpose, and I am your host, Marie Rodriguez. I have today the lovely Shanice, my friend, who is here to give you her side of what happened in her life, why she had to make the hard decision that she made. I am honored to have you on here, and I appreciate your time. So, you can go ahead and introduce yourself to our
Hi,
tribe.
hi everybody. My name is Shanice. I am a mom. I am born in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm honored to be here with you all today.
So this is going to be an awesome conversation between Shanice and I. You guys have the honor of listening in and just hearing her story. Let me make this clear before we start. There is no judgment here at all. And we are here today just to give you another point of view. As you guys may know, I was a foster child, so I was in the system. I had a different outlook on things. As a mom who, had the opposite end where your children might be, removed, or you make the decision to give them up for whatever your reasons are. It's always good to hear both sides. And what would you say your childhood was like?
I would say it was good. I was with my mom for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then I moved to stay with my aunt for a little bit with my cousins. So it was actually, for me, I would say it was good. And I feel like it was a blessing in disguise because even though I wasn't with my mom, I actually got to do a lot more. Like I was in church all the
Mm-hmm.
time. At one point, I was on choir. I made friends.
Ooh, you was singing.
I did. Yeah, and my aunt, she taught me how to cook. She had me cleaning. Honestly, I think, I learned a lot for as like more as housekeeping and things like
Mm-hmm.
that from her. But I never forget when she had us on the floor cleaning with a toothbrush in the
Ooh, I
kitchen
remember
floor.
them
So
days,
I was
girl.
like, so it was like, okay, it just made me feel like, okay, this is more of a responsibility that you got to do. So this is
Mm-hmm.
what
Yes. So would you say? Because I remember them days, them toothbrushes on the grout. Oh my goodness. Would
it
you?
was those tile floors
Yes,
that
with the
had
little
the
grout
tiles in
concrete in the
it.
middle.
Yes.
Yes, whatever it is. But yes, I remember them days. Oh, that's the worst. So would you say that you had a regular childhood, or it was one that you felt like you grew up fast?
I would say it's a combination of both.
Mm,
Because when I started out younger, I was actually okay.
okay.
I was doing what most of the normal kids do. But it's like as time got older and things like that, everything just started to, fluctuate.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so, what was the best part of your childhood?
A good memory. I got to meet my friends in Maryland.
Nice.
Even though we don't really talk as often, we
Mm-hmm.
don't really see each other as much. They all live there, but I got to meet a lot of people, especially from in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, because I mean, a lot of them moved around. Some of them may still live there, but I would say the church that we went to, that's pretty much brought a lot of us together.
Nice.
And I would say it was a lot that happened at that church. So really, really introduced me to God because I can say this that at one point I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to do nothing because
Mm.
as a kid I was like, why do we have to go every Sunday?
That's all of us as a kid. We like, can we just not go this Sunday? That's awesome. I love those memories. I grew up in the church too. But what would you say is a difficult part? Like, what is something that was hard for you as a child to deal with, or to, like, whether it
Honestly,
be mental or whatever? What's the hardest part of your childhood?
I think the hardest part of my childhood was the sexual abuse.
Mm.
Because I would say, as a kid, even though I held on to that for a very long, long time, I didn't tell anybody right away, because at the time I was so young. Because starting out, getting abused so early. Because I was really young when I first got abused. So I started out. I must have been maybe 3 or 4 years old, and then after that, I want to be careful how I say certain things.
Yeah.
I would just say that. A lot of things even happen within family areas that actually shouldn't have happened. But I would say that it was a lot that happened back then.
Girl, I know. And I feel that. And that So did you feel like you can talk to people, like your adults that were around you, about it, or you felt like that's something that you couldn't discuss?
I felt like I couldn't discuss it because, for one, at the time I was so young. I didn't understand at that time. I didn't understand what this all was at then. I didn't know a lot of stuff should have been until I got a lot older. Even though I was brought up in church and stuff like that, but you never would have thought things would happen like that, such a so early age. I mean, especially that's someone that's like someone who's in kindergarten or preschool.
Yeah.
So when things happen, and then the things keep happening, even as you get older, it opens up more doors to things that most kids shouldn't get exposed to, and that just happened to be me in that instance. So, which also played a lot into me having my children a lot earlier. Because a lot of it.
So what age were you? So, okay, you had a semi good upbringing, and then you had part of it, you grew up kind of fast, and then there was the abuse, and then at what age did you start having your children?
I got pregnant with my oldest son at 16.
Okay.
Actually, no, I got pregnant at 15 and had him at 16.
Okay.
And then I had my second oldest son at 17, right after, I was pregnant with him through my senior year.
Okay.
But it happened. Yeah. I was a kid, but it's right after. But when I found out I was pregnant after I graduated, I got sent away.
Okay.
I was staying with my grandparents at the time, and
you got sent away by was it just for your benefit, or what happened?
No, because I was pregnant, I got sent away.
Okay.
My grandfather wasn't having it, so I ended up staying back. I ended up back with my grandmother, not grandmother, but my aunt in Maryland. So basically, I kept flip-flopping. 1 minute I was with my aunt, then I came back to Philly with my mom, then I went back to her for a little bit, but I didn't stay there. I don't think I was there until after I had my son, and then I think I came back a few months after that, and then I stayed back in Philadelphia for a while.
Okay. So at that point, you had how many children?
At that time, I only had 2.
2? Okay.
I didn't start having more children until I met my husband at the time.
And when you get married, you was walking down that aisle. When did you get married?
To be honest with you, we didn't walk down the aisle. We actually got married at a wedding chapel.
Okay.
It was so basically we actually got married pretty fast. I was in my early 20s when we got married.
Okay.
We met at work, and we got married a little bit after I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, and then that's when everything hit.
So you were pretty young. You were pretty young. And there's no judgment here. I want to tell the viewers there is no judgment here. Shanice is my dear friend, and she knows a lot of my story. And it resembles, what we have been through. So there is no judgment. I just want the tribe to understand a little bit about your story and what led to the decision on you getting married. Because you were young. You were a mom, and you grew up fast, and now you're entering a marriage. What led to that decision? How did you feel ready?
It was a lot. It was a lot that came with that, because I knew for a fact when I got pregnant with my daughter, I knew that I had to leave my mom, because my mom wasn't going to let me stay there if I had about being pregnant. So, and that was a part of it. And then on top of that, it was I was trying to go about things the right way. Okay. And me and him at the time, we had a discussion, and then that's how we ended up getting married. Okay. So we got married right before I had my daughter, but it just things actually just went down south real quick even after that. So
Okay.
it was like the start of my journey, but at the time I was young, like I was in my
Yeah.
early 20s. I don't even remember how old I was exactly, but I was still young. Um, so, but I was married to him for 7 years before we got divorced.
Okay.
So
And how many children at the time in the relationship? So it's just
we
the
only
two?
had so we only had the three at the time when we after within the marriage we only had three because
Okay.
I had my daughter, and then a little bit after that I got pregnant with the twins, and that's when
Woo, you
everything.
had twins, two at once.
Listen, when I first found out I was pregnant, I didn't even know I was going to have twins until I went to the ultrasound, my very first ultrasound, and they both was there. But the only thing about it was they knew something was wrong when they did tell me about it because of the fact that you know how when you have your ultrasound and you have the sac, so you have see the egg and then you see the tube. One of them wasn't the same as the other one.
Okay.
So that's how they knew that one of the children was having some birth defects. And so they had to do an amniocentesis on me and everything to check and kind of find out he sure enough did have a disability. And to this day, he has what is called Williams syndrome. And he's also diagnosed with autism. So he was the child that actually was very sick a lot. When I first had him, he almost died. It was a lot to take in with that.
So, how was it being a mom? Did you feel like you had support from your husband with the children, or so you just felt like you were alone in the marriage?
He was very mean to me when I had the twins. When I was pregnant with him, he was, he wasn't really, he was there, but then he really wasn't really there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, he was somewhat physically abusive towards me,
Okay.
even when I was pregnant with the kids. I mean, but even though we had our disagreements or anything like that, but I would say Bob still shouldn't have gotten to that point.
Yeah.
But I would just say that, there were times that he would want to go to sleep and the babies would be crying. I'm dealing with twins at the time.
Yeah.
And trying to nurse, he would get upset because he wants to go to sleep and the kids are up, waking him up and stuff like that. So it kind of got a little frustrating because I felt like I was pretty much doing things on my own, even though he was there. But he was helping me out with the bills and everything like that. But as far as the children itself, it was just a lot. So I was pretty much doing it by myself. So it was hard because I had two small infants, and I had a 2-year-old at the time. And I had my two boys that I already had, and we was all sharing the same house and everything like that. But it was just a lot, especially since the youngest one, he kept going in and out of the hospital. So it made it more complicated because I remember when I went to the hospital the first time, his heart rate was like compressing, like he had trouble breathing. So he'd been living nice. He had to stay in the hospital, and then it just got to the point where that's when things actually started taking a turn for me because it got to the point that me and my ex split up. I ended up moving back with family with my mother at the time, and then my kids got split up for different homes. Well, at the time, my grandparents ended up taking my oldest two.
At what point, because you ended up making the decision to give your children to family, at what point did you come up with, like, did you say this is what needs to happen?
Well, I tried to do other measures before it got to that point.
Okay.
Like I tried to go to the homeless shelter, try to get some assistance, which really wasn't really no help. They didn't really help at all. I tried going to other nonprofits, trying to see if I could get some type of assistance. I even went to the social worker at the hospital, trying to get assistance. And that's actually how things ended up getting worse because it got to a point where my son had to be released from the hospital, but he was hooked to feeding tubes and everything. So it was like, okay, now it's like, okay, I have to have desperate measures to figure out what I'm going to do now because I don't have a stable place to go now. And I'm like, I have all these children at different places. So, and then there was certain situations that happened with my ex-husbands family member at the time. So it was like, it was a lot that happened then. So when I went back to Maryland for the last time, it took me some time to really think about what I was going to do, because when I went back there, I was so distraught. Because like my aunt was on the phone with me and she was asking me about if I was coming back to Philly, and I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. See, at the time, what got me in trouble was because of the fact that my son was still in the hospital at the time when I had went back to Maryland. So he automatically felt like I left him in the hospital, but it really wasn't the case. I was trying to find stable housing. It's just that I really couldn't get any help. And then when I went back there, I was in so distraught because of everything that had happened during that time period. So I was like, okay, so I sat down with myself, and it took me some time. I was praying about it, and then eventually it came to the conclusion that I asked my aunt, asked both of my aunts. I had talked to them on the phone and asked if they take care of the kids for me for a little while till I get myself together. And then a little after that, I left the kids with my aunt. I came back to Philly, and then I took some time away from everybody. Took about 3 years away from everybody, my family. I cut contact with everybody, and I gave me some time to really focus on my journey with healing from the incident with my ex-husband, with the kids and everything that was going on. It was a lot on me at that time. And I was like, how can I sit there and try to drag all of these children through the streets, especially I don't have anywhere to go. You're talking about I got a sick child in the hospital. So it was like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so I got to do something, because I even was homeless for a little bit. Like while my kids was away, I had took some time, I was out for a little bit. I slept in the train station for a little bit. I know until some nice gentleman, he helped me, gave me a few dollars so I can get a room and stuff like that. Because I already was getting a little bit income anyway coming in, but I used what I had at the time to at least get me a room to get me started, and that's pretty much how I got started on working on getting myself together. I used worked that room. I got what I could get out of there. Like it was a struggle living in that rooming house, because I didn't have a refrigerator. I didn't have nothing to cook with, because I was sharing it with several other people. And when living in rooming houses, not everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
So, but during that time, I would say, like, I feel like that was, even though it was hard walking away from my children and from my family at that time, I felt like, God was using that moment to really group me and really get me to where he needed to be, because I started going to church. And when I started going to church, it's like, I started learning more about God, building my own relationship with God, just start focusing more on him. And that's when everything just started getting better for me in terms of working and everything, because my first job out there, I worked at Rite Aid for a little bit. And then I went into working in customer service, and then that's all I've been.
So, but let me go back, because like I expressed to you before, and I want to say this publicly, because it might be a mother listening with having to make the decision that they don't want to make, because, we don't want people to talk. Our thoughts, our own thoughts become sometimes our worst enemy. I want to say that it was courageous. It takes strength to say, I can't. I'm going through a lot. First of all, I don't know if I'm wrong to say that maybe in your life you didn't take time to heal before that. So it was so much stress. You went from growing up, the abuse, to having children, to being married, to having, because a lot of the times our relationship reflects how we feel on the inside and what we've been through. We just repeat it a lot of the time. So going into a marriage where you're young, you're learning, sometimes people don't have grace for that. And so you have to be a mom, and then now you have a child who really needs you. And how do you give your attention more to one child without feeling you're neglecting the others? And how do you be a wife to your husband without feeling the same thing for, like, your kids need you or that sort of thing? And it takes a lot of strength to say, I need to get out of this situation. It's not healthy for me or my children. You go into family, your family's home, and a lot of the times that might not be an ideal situation, but you're making it work. And now you come to a decision where my children need better, and this is where I stop, where the train stops, and I have to put them on another one so they can keep going. That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's a hard road because I'm even young. I would say even during a situation, it hurt me to my heart that I had to leave my children. But I felt at that time it was the best thing to do because I felt like I wasn't stable. And the first thing that the lady told me from DHS was that I had to be stable.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. So that was like, and she told me that, and that was like, that's my focus right now, get stable. Because it's like, how can I sit there and even try to take care of 5 children at the time, and I don't have a job, I don't have nowhere to lay my head, that's typically mine. And it was like I said, I went to staying in a rooming house for a little bit. So it's like, I can't bring all of my children here. And that environment, it was not a safe place for have no children be there. It was a lot of abuse there. It was a lot of stuff that took place in those rooming houses that should have never been. Because I moved around to different rooming houses for a little while until I got to the point where, I'm back with my family and everything now. But, I would say that some people, they're going to say things because they don't understand. But only thing I can say is that, some parents, they got to do what they have to do. Because there's nothing wrong with asking for help because you never know what that person is going through.
What advice would you give to a parent who's having to make the same decision that you made?
I would say that you have to think about what's best for the kids and what's best for you at that time period. Because I know some people might think that's being selfish, but in some cases you have to be selfish and to an extent where you know that you're struggling. You know you have to get yourself to a point where you can do for your kids, because what good is it to you try to force a situation where you're trying to raise these children and you barely got it yourself? It's okay to know that, okay, you need help. It's okay to say, okay, I can't do this. Because how fair is it to that child to have to grow up in poverty for them so that I can do for them the way that they need to be? Because some people don't have that.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that I need help. It's okay to say that I can't do it. Yes, we're moms and that we're the one bearing the kids and we got to take care of them. Because I was always brought up in a household where my family always had the children. We always raised the children. And a lot of times we had to really fend for ourselves. And some people can't handle that. Some people don't have that capacity.
That's true. Okay, so I want to know, what would you say to the people in your life, in your children's life? What would you say to them? What words would you give them for having your children in their home?
I would make it known that I do appreciate them taking care of them for me, because they didn't have to do them. Because I know my family members personally, they had to alter their livelihoods. Like they turned down things that they normally was going to do in order to benefit taking care of my children. And I do respect that, and I respect that they went out their way to take care of them. And that's why I would say, as of right now, I'm in a position where I don't want to take my children from my family, from them, only because of the fact that this is mom to them. They're happy. Now, the only thing I would say about that is that I still make myself know that I'm still present, even though I'm not physically there with them. I might not talk to them all the time, but I still make sure that I'm still involved with them. I still get to see them. I still get to interact with them when I do see them. So that way they know that I'm still there. Even though I'm not physically with you, you still have me.
That's amazing. That's awesome. What would you say to your children if they wanted to speak to you about them being with family member and not with you?
I would just let them, give them that option. I would say if you want to stay with, who you're staying with, I'm okay with that. I would always say that I will leave the door open.
Mm.
I'll make you decide when you're ready. Like if you want to come, you can come visit. We can take things slow. Like you can come visit. We can talk. We can spend some time with each other. Now, when you decide that you're ready, that you want to come physically stay, then I'll leave that door open for you. That way, you know that you always got a place to call home to whenever you need to. Like you know that I'm still there for you, regardless to the situation.
My last question is, what would you improve in the system or between the people involved? So the adults, caseworkers, you, everybody involved in the child's growth. For me, it would be the system. For you, because there were family members, it would be your family. What would you improve so that the children can benefit from it?
I would say the biggest thing the system needs to address is who they're placing the children with. Because there's a lot of people who only want the children just for money.
Money, yes.
And it's not doing the children any good, especially when, just think about it for instance. You have a child and they already know they're being taken from their parent and they're placed in this foster home. And they think, especially if they get bonded with their foster parent and they have a good relationship with them, and then out of the blue you say, "Oh, you're going to be moving to this next family." Mm-hmm. That's traumatizing to a child.
Yes.
Because now it's saying, "Okay, I don't want to get too attached to this person because they might take me away again." Because you've got, especially when they're small. Because now they're crying, they're upset because it's like, why are you taking me away? You know?
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect somebody who's 5 or 6, even 7, to understand why are you taking me away from this person, and then you keep doing it.
It's sad to see the abuse and the neglect that's going on. And you're right. Many times it's done out of, oh, I need the money or I want the money. So they open up their homes for foster children to live in. And I felt like a paycheck. That was the worst feeling in the world. In some homes, you feel like a paycheck. And you feel like you're replaceable. And you're right. They come and they rip you out of the home. Sometimes with no explanation. Sometimes you're acting out, so you have to be put in another home. And I felt, and it's my personal opinion, because it's 2025, I really don't know what people go through in foster care today. I've just heard recent stories that allow me to believe that a lot of things that I experienced and my sisters and brothers experienced still go on today. And it was the same, feeling like a paycheck, feeling used, abused, moving from place to place, not having a say where you get to go or who you're going to meet or can you stay. It's like you're always the new kid, so you shrink back. It ain't going right, so we're going to push you over there type of. And it's just not a great feeling. It's not mentally, not a great feeling.
Yeah. And I would say I never was brought up in the foster system myself, but I would say that even though I wasn't in the foster care, I kind of can relate a little bit to people who are in foster care because of what I've been through. Because I was, like I mentioned, I wasn't always with my mom. Mm-hmm. I've been back and forth between family members. Like I stayed with my mom for a while. I stayed with my grandparents for a little while. And I stayed with my aunt back and forth. So even though I was still with family, it's still, you're being bounced around from place to place.
Yep.
So there's no stability. So now it's like your mindset has to get to a place where you know that you're completely stable. And I think that's also played a big part of me moving so much, even though I've liked where I lived at, but it's a matter of being balanced somewhere where you know that you can call it home.
And what is one tip that you would give people for self-care? Because as we made our decisions in life, we have to live with those decisions. And sometimes they can sneak back up because, we're moving forward in our lives. And I know what you got going on and you know what I got going on. But sometimes those moments hit you like, man, that decision or that moment in time or how I grew up or whatever comes along to play a part in your mental health. How do you take care of yourself? How do you show yourself love?
I would say the best option when it comes down to that is that you definitely have to get a lot of personal development. And I mean, and what I mean by personal development is not so much as, you know, getting your hair done and all that stuff, but I would say mentally, therapy and physical
Movement.
personal development. Yeah, it's very, very vital because for one, there I would say therapy will definitely help you with them far as your mental, to help you heal from past traumas, from even like from rejection, from depression, anxiety, all of those things, because you need to have that, even as parents, because when you've been traumatized with sexually abuse, mentally abuse, even being bounced around, that messes with your mental.
Yes.
So, like, how can you really function properly if you're not good yourself? That's why you got so many women who get addicted to, you get alcohol, they get addicted to drugs or cigarettes or things
Numbing the
like that,
pain.
because it's a coping mechanism, because they don't know how to deal with the stuff that they're dealing with. So those two things I would say, and also if they are Christians, that really start building that relationship with God, because that definitely will help as well. Because it definitely helped with me, like getting into the Word. Even if you don't have like an actual Bible that you can read, they have audio Bibles, you can listen to it. I mean, I would say that definitely does help a lot, because it helped me get through a whole lot of stuff that I was going through.
Foundation got to be right, and what you just described with self-love and self-care and personal development, faith building, I call that laying your foundation. Learn how to lay your foundation so that when those moments come that shake you, or things happen in life, you won't crumble, you won't fall, depression won't take you out, because you have a strong foundation. Yes, we feel the sadness of life sometimes, we feel the pain, we feel the loss, we grieve, but when you have that foundation, is like, I know that I'm gonna be okay. Now I have something to believe in, that I know I made it out from that. I made it through, and now I'm gonna get to the other side. So this right here, this situation, this thought, no different. You get to tell your thoughts, you got to get in check, because you're not going to take me out. Seriously, like, I might be sad right now, but I'm going to be happy again. I'm going to feel that joy again. And that's a lot of the times, that's what I got to do, because, life be lifing. so, but it can't take me out, because I've already been through a lot.
Sometimes we have to, even though, it's just like with Abraham and Isaac, he went up to sacrifice them, and God still blessed them. So sometimes God may put us in a position where it may seem like it's hard, but there's a blessing in
it's
the
like,
end.
how much do you trust me? How much? Like, you have to have faith that big, but how much do you trust me? Do you believe me when I say that I got you, that I will supply all of your needs, that I will never leave you nor forsake you?
Yeah. And Hannah's a perfect example, because even though she had her son, she had Samuel, she left him for some time. She gave him to, I think he was the prophet or the man of God that she left him with. She made that covenant with God, and she left from there. She did come back to visit him. But he was not in her care. So you think about our situation, about us having to leave our children behind. Sometimes God allows us that to happen so that He can do something in our lives. Because sometimes He may say, okay, this is something that I need you to do, because you never know. That child may be meant for us to do something great that you just don't know about yet.
That is true. That is true. And I am, like I said, I'm proud of you. That you did make the hard decision that many of us cannot make, or won't make, for whatever our reasons are. And I am not here to say somebody's right and somebody's wrong. I am not the expert in nobody's life. I did not live. So I try hard to be open minded to everybody's journey, and to understand where you came from. And if I don't understand it, hey, that's your life. But as long as we learn from our past, we learn from our decisions, we learn from the things we're going through, and move forward in a positive way. That's all that matters. That we're growing from what we like. We're growing from who we were. We're not the same, and we're better people, and leaving our mark in this world. If adoption is the right way for you, go for it. If foster care is the right way for you, you can call DHS. In Philly, it was DHS. I don't know what is here in Texas where I'm at, but you can call DHS and you can say, I need your help. What do I do? Get the help that you need. Whatever your path is, tribe, I want you to understand that it is okay. If it's best for the child, then it is okay. If you're doing it for their benefit. So I just need somebody out there that's listening who may be struggling with the fact that you did make the decision to give your child up. I need you to forgive yourself. I need you to let it go. And I need you to say, I did the best that I could. I did what I could do, and I needed help, and I realized that. And it takes courage to say, I need help. I can't do it. Not many people are brave enough to say they can't do it because they feel weak. And so they stay in that situation longer than they should. So I am proud of you. If you made the decision for the benefit of the child, I'm proud of you.
Yes. I would also say when it comes down to that, forgiveness is a big deal because it took me a long time to really forgive myself. I blamed myself. It took me a very, very, very long time. I was broken for a very long time with the whole situation. Even when it coming back to family and facing my children, it was hard. It was really hard for me. But at that time, even though I knew in my heart that I had to do the right thing, at the same token, a lot of time I self-blame myself. I criticize myself. I was really hard on myself because I felt I've looked at myself as a bad parent and all of that stuff that that you normally get in your thoughts and you start thinking things. But that's pretty much what it was. It took me a really long time, but it was like it got to a point where God was like telling me, it's like showing me like, okay, it's time to release it now. I've already forgiven you for this, so now let it go so that way you can move on so I can show you what is next. Because sometimes we can beat ourselves up over it.
Because we put ourselves in prison. It's not a life sentence, it's a life lesson. And then mentally we lock ourselves up. So you're not physically in prison, but mentally you are.
Yes.
And it's not meant for you to die with.
Yeah. That's why I say mental health. Say that parenting classes help. I took a couple parenting classes. That actually does help. It helps you as a mom to understand your children better, how to, especially when it comes to the discipline, because they can give you other directions of how to discipline your children, how to react to certain things. And it's now parenting classes are optional. They have a lot of parenting classes all over the country, I believe. I mean, I think most of them are free. So I would say that is one step to any mom who needs that assistance, because some of them do allow you to bring your kids there too. But it's another way to really help you and mold you into becoming a better mom, especially if you've been through stuff. It can help you, So,
what is something around you that can help people who are parents, if there's anything, and anybody in the system or that have children with family or whatever the case may be? Is there any type of support that they can receive?
I would say they can check with some of their insurances, depending on what type of insurance they have, because they do have certain programs out right now for moms. Like you have Moms for Moms, you have I forgot the name, Maternity Care Coalition. Those are people who just having babies, but they work with the children, but they are also a support system for basically They give you things like if you need diapers, if you need formula, if you need things for the babies, they do have that. There are even some nonprofit organizations. They do give out like free resources of different things that they give. Like, for example, you got cribs for kids or people who need cribs for
Yeah,
their babies.
I remember
Other
that.
out there, but I would say that they can check with their insurances because sometimes their insurance programs they also have programs for moms. Because that's how I got a lot of the programs that I got into through my insurance. But it depends on what type of insurance they have. I know Medicaid they have certain things, but I'm not sure about people who have like employer coverage. But I guess it depends on what they have because every state is different.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
also, I would say also Facebook, social medias are
Yes.
actually good because they have a lot of mom support
There's a group
groups.
for everything. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I agree.
They also have support groups that are in person. You just have to look
Mm-hmm.
around. Go look on their websites because some of the nonprofits they actually have listings on there. They
Yeah.
tell you what their support groups are. So they're out there. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of looking into them.
I want to personally thank you, Shanice, for sharing your story and for coming on here and just, being brave enough to, share that with everybody. I want to thank the tribe for tuning in. And if you like this, if you would love to share this with somebody who may need it, share it. So, click the link, copy it, share it, and invite a friend to watch. And until next time, I hope that you understand that you are worth the love and that you are loved and that you deserve to live a blessed life. I appreciate
Yes.
you guys, and I'll see you next time.